Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am here with a smile on my face and a different background this week. You know why? The Arlington football team took an L, and I couldn't be happier. Not the greatest game we've ever seen from the Eagles by far. Not the greatest game of the season, right? But it was good enough to beat the Arlington football team. And say what you want, a win is definitely a win. But y'all know here on the Eagles Elite podcast, we're not going to spend an hour or 45 minutes or an hour and 15 minutes or whatever singing the praises of the Eagles and how great everything. We're going to keep it real. There's a lot we got to work on. Thankfully, we got a bye week to work on it, but it's the same things we've been talking about all season. But you know what? You play the game, you either win it or you lose it. We've won all but one so far. But when this bye is over, whoo, so I want to give y'all a quick rundown of some of the teams we're going to play. The Seahawks, and not in order, Seahawks, 49ers, Cowboys again. We're also going to play the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs, and that Chiefs game is the first one. So I want everybody to understand one simple thing. No one likes us, and we don't care, but we win in games. So with that being said, I mean, I can sit here all day, but y'all ain't come just to hear me. Y'all know the squad in the building. What up, Wyatt?
What's happening, everybody? Eagles 8-1, not just the best in the NFC East, not just the best in the NFC, but the best in the NFL. You know what it is. We coming at you. We're going to bring you all the news, talk about the Arlington football game and everything. You know, we got to talk about that. There's a lot to be said. And, of course, you know, there's some injury updates we got to get to. We are pretty banged up, but, you know, it's the bye week. It's the bye week. Time for everybody kind of analyze everything. There's a lot to be analyzed. And if those have been watching the channel, watching the show for the past couple weeks, well, since the season started, you know there's a lot to take care of. But we're gonna get all into it here. I can't wait.
And we got the Diva in the building. Diva, what it do?
What's going on, y'all? Listen, I've been having a ball. You hear me? I have been laughing so hard ever since Sunday when we beat the Arlington football team, because it has been a joyous week of victory, especially with that one play that I know everybody gonna talk about when Dak got flipped. Boy, I'm telling you, I've been having a ball with
You mean when he got curb stomped?
Yeah, curb stomped. He got the honey poured on his head. He actually got dipped in honey. He got dipped in honey.
Biscuit.
He the 1-8-1. Like they done memed out. Oh, that. But
great.
We got to shout out a couple of people here. So we got our guy Old Man in the building. What's good? What's good, Old Man?
What's going on, Old Man?
Old Man. Yeah, Old Man was first today. Philly, you got big.
Philly. How you doing?
What up, Philly? Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Glad to see both of y'all in the comments with us tonight. This is gonna be a fun one, y'all. This is gonna be a fun one. So we're gonna try to keep it as close to our normal format as possible, but I'm excited. I'm trying to contain the excitement. And I know all of our Dallas Cowboy Arlington football team fans, they're mad. People say, "Oh, the Eagles, this is the Eagles Super Bowl, and if it wasn't for the referees and all that."
We've been
that
hearing
box
that
of
all
tissues,
man.
That's all I got for you.
Well, listen, stats say something different.
And we are gonna get into that. And we know Diva got the stats ready. But before we get to that, before we hit those stats, Wyatt, you know what we start every week with. You know how we do things around here. It's update time, y'all. It's update time.
Yeah, it is. And unfortunately, we got some bad news to talk about this week. A lot, this first one we're going to be getting into is one that really everybody knew. And then, of course, the second one we're going to get into is kind of a recent update. Philadelphia tight end Dallas Goedert, one of our main big pieces on the offense here, had a fracture in his forearm. He's going to be out probably at least 4 weeks. They haven't put him on IR as of yet, but it's looking like he's probably going to be out 4 weeks with a forearm fracture. They don't know how much damage there is. They're going to get an x-ray to see if there's any other damage other than just the bone, but it sucks. I mean, it seems like it's every year now we lose Dallas for like 2 or 3 games. So at least it's not more than that. But I mean, at least we're going to go into a bye week, which kind of helps a little bit.
Yeah, with Dallas, man, it's always free injuries too. That's the worst part about it. Like last year, bad play should have been a penalty call. It wasn't even a penalty. Try to take my man out. This week's just landing wrong on your arm, like not just falling, but trying to put that arm down. We see that happen to people in the NBA, NFL, MLB, soccer. It happens all the time. You just gotta fight that urge to put that arm down in those situations. But I mean, it's a reflex.
Well, I think he would have, but in the replay, it looked like the defender had his arm, like he was holding his arm, so he couldn't even get out of it. It was just locked. So I mean, it's like 2 years in a row. Like, it's 2 freak plays like that.
If he could have just, you know what I'm saying, like he had it, but if he could have just tucked it up, but he still tried to kind of catch it with his wrist a little bit. But hey, I mean, it's a natural thing. It's not like,
it sucks.
Why was he doing that? It's a natural thing.
It's still crazy to think about, like even a forearm fracture. Like, dude will be back in like 4 weeks. It was like, how's this dude going to be back in 4 weeks from a forearm fracture? Because man, once
you get that metal, either the screws or the rod inserted, like it doesn't take long. It's just healing it up.
Yeah, it's just crazy to think about.
And then depending on how bad it is, they may have just had to put like a screw or the metal suture things that they put. I forgot what they call them. Because if it's not that bad, they could have just did that. But that's crazy. And then sometimes you have to go back and have a second surgery.
They're just trying to figure out the extent of how much was injured, and then they're going to go from there. Hopefully, it's the minimum. Hopefully, we don't have to put this dude on IR or go even longer without him.
We'll see. Do you have any thoughts on Dallas and another free injury to our guy?
That was a dirty play. I mean, like it really was. Like he had his arm wrapped around. Like he grabbed him, and then he basically had his arm wrapped around Dallas, and then kind of came to the forearm, and then he fell on the other arm. So, yeah, I mean, it was another dirty play, of course, and a freak accident for Dallas. But I mean, we knew it was coming. I mean, him and Devontae Maddox can't stay healthy.
And then possibly the next two we're going to be talking about as well. That's the newest addition. Pat's need a new GM.
So old man says Pat's need a new GM, new QB until either one changes. Pat's not doing anything.
Hey, depending on how the rest of this year goes, we might have a high pick and may be able to go out and get a new QB.
NFL
refs. Man, I know we always talk about it every year how bad refs are, but it seems like it's even worse this year than normal.
Yep. What up, Chris? So Chris says, I think NFL refs are not good, but the NBA is way worse. So I'll be honest with you. The NBA has always been bad. They be cheating and all kind of stuff in the NBA. But with the NFL, man, the thing is, first of all, you have to see the play, right? And that's the thing. Like we give the referees a lot of grief, and I do too. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, when you step back and look at it, they have to actually see the play. Like they don't have the chance to go to replay and say, "Oh, this is a penalty. Oh, that's a penalty. Oh, we didn't see this." It's only what they see that they can call. So if you're not in the position, if you know how to position yourself where the referees can't really see the dirty things you do, you're gonna get away with it. That's not an Eagles thing. That's not a Chiefs thing. That's an every team thing.
They need to bring that challenge.
Are you gonna have some calls like the ones that went against the Eagles in the fourth quarter on the last drive? Well, even if they do, it's gonna be more than one play because you're only gonna get a challenge one play. So then you still gotta hold it and figure out when to do it. The amount of bad plays that they have now, they need to be able to review their own calls or something. Just a challenge to me ain't even gonna be nowhere near enough because it's a lot of plays. But I mean, I guess it would be better than nothing, right? Yeah. But for me, man, the referees. I mean, a lot of people that are non-Eagles fans are, the Eagles get all these calls and they don't get a lot of calls against them. We sure got a lot of the last drive the other night, did we not?
They both had 10 penalties each, and the Eagles had more yards off of it.
Right.
So they actually benefited off the penalties more than us in that game. But
it's a narrative. Yeah, it's a narrative against the Eagles because no one likes us. So they try to make up reasons why we're winning games, and not just that. Even though we're not playing as good as we can, we're better than a lot of people. That's what they don't want to accept. That's what they don't want to accept.
Right. That's the problem. We're not playing as good. And even if we probably did play as good as we can, it'd still be something for the Eagles.
Yep.
Always
Once
fun.
again,
Like they can never make it
no one likes
easy
us.
for themselves.
And then no one likes us either, so it's always that. All right.
Yep.
Seems like it.
Why else? Who else we got on the injury?
Yeah, another guy that's familiar with the injury report. It's Nakobe Dean has a Liz Frank sprain in his left foot. It's his other foot. His right foot's the one he injured earlier this season whenever he was out. It's his other foot he has a Liz Frank sprain in. They're going to get a second opinion apparently on it, seeing what the extent is. If he does need surgery, that's pretty much the season for him. He's going to be out if he has to get surgery. There is a slight possibility he could return at some point, but they are going to have to put him on IR. And with the way they changed the rules, you can come off the IR a second time, but that's it. So, I mean, it's just a kind of the similar thing with Dallas, just a little bit more serious, where they just kind of have to figure out the extent of the injury and then they're going to go from there. But it's looking like Nakobe's going to be missing a big chunk of time, if not the rest of the season.
Well, Nicholas Morrow.
Yeah. I mean, I was one that said that it seems like the defense, the secondary kind of plays better with Morrow and Cunningham back there together. And I mean, that's no hate on Nakobe Dean. It's just what we saw in that limited amount of time that he was out the beginning of this season. And I mean, maybe it's happening at the right time with the Chiefs coming up and the Bills. I mean, the secondary needs to get right somehow. I mean, you're going to have Bradley Roby coming off the IR. He's not even on IR right now. He's going to be coming back here after the bye week. So hopefully get that Nichols spot solidified, but I don't know. It sucks to see Nakobe Dean only in his second year, and he's already going through this many injury, especially with two different feet. Come on now. What's going to happen going forward here?
Well, he was injured in college too. He was injured
yeah. That was part of the reason why they're saying he slid so far.
Yeah, maybe this is the reason he did slide, Maybe the injuries are a little bit legit with him. But hey, man, there's talent. Just got to figure out a way to persevere through it. We won the Super Bowl with a lot of backup players, so you have to find a way to persevere, through it. It sucks that it happened. A lot of times when I hear that a guy's already had like a foot injury, and he has a foot injury to the same with the other foot, especially the other foot, I'm thinking you try to overcompensate when you first return, because you probably should have took a little bit more time with the original injury. But it's try to play as much as you can, try to get in and help your team. So I mean, it sucks. I don't want to turn into one of those guys that's always hurt, but there is concern. Obviously, if you don't have concern when a guy gets hurt twice in the same season, then you're not being a realistic football fan.
And he's only been back 2 games? It ain't been many games, but I mean, honestly, we persevered while he was out for those a whole month. So I think we'll be all right. Cunningham and Morrow, I think they play better together, and I think that our defense don't look as lost. Maybe something is different with him being back. I don't know what it is. Some error.
Well, I think it's when you're out like that and then you come back, everybody plays differently. So then everybody's got to relearn how to play with you versus what they were doing those, 4, really 5 weeks you're out because he got hurt early in the other game. So I think it was just a matter of getting reacclimated to him. But it doesn't seem like it's going to be an issue next few weeks because he's not going to be there.
It just sucks that we had finally 2 games straight of continuity in that defense, and then now it's just going back to all right, we just gotta find plug and play these guys again. Every single week is a new different defensive rotation and everything. It's why can't we just get it straight? Why can't we just be good for a while? Get this. It's hitting us hard.
Same secondary D-line for 3 weeks now. He's been playing the same lineup since I guess Nakobe Dean been back. But it's gotta be different now.
This bye week came at a perfect time.
And Rob with the hashtag Fly Eagles Fly.
Fly Eagles Fly.
Go Birds.
We sure did fly. We had Dak fly this weekend.
Flying up on top of his head. Dumped him on his biscuit.
Y'all ain't giving Dak no type of grace around these parts. Huh? Dak gets no grace.
No.
I'm not saying that he should. I'm just commentating that he's not.
No.
You know what I'm saying?
It's a game of
All right.
inches, and you were this close a couple times.
Yep.
No RDP of the AFT. All right. Anybody else? Why? Anything else for our Eagles?
That's all I have right now as far as that. I mean, I mentioned Bradley Roby probably coming back. I mean, he said he's coming back on Twitter. Some dude asked him. He said he's coming back. And we can only assume Cam Jurgens is going to be good to go. They kind of held him back from going this week, give him that extra week-long break going into that Chiefs game. So hopefully Cam Jurgens come back, get that run game going again, even though Nicky Pants says that the run game's not an issue. I don't know why he says it's not an issue, because it's clearly an issue.
I am glad that you brought that up, sir.
Anybody has
I am
eyes
glad that you brought that up. I am so glad that you brought that up. I'm going to start with Diva. So I'm not going to start. I'm going to let Diva start this one off. Diva, talk to us about how you felt when you saw our coach, Nicky Tight Pants, get on the mic,
Nicky Tight Pants,
and say, "Oh, there's not a problem with the running game, the sweep game, and the RPR, the run pass run is all part of it. And I think we're fine." How did you feel? What did you think when Nicky Tight Pants said that?
That's a bunch of bull. Because you think because you run the ball, what? Maybe 30, not even 30 sometimes. You ran the ball. Yeah, maybe about 15, 20 times you think that nothing's wrong with the run game. When there are plenty of plays, especially that 3-and-out play that we had, you did the tush push, you got us away from the goal line, and then you decide to want to throw the ball. Why not continue to run the ball with Swift and Penny and Gainwell in there mixed up? Why? Because Gainwell got the first touchdown when he went in there looking like a bobblehead and just flipped in the end zone. I mean, and then we didn't really see him no more after that. We saw him like once or twice.
Right.
So, I mean, I'm not understanding, like, when the points and times and plays when you need to stick to the run game, you decide to pass. Yes, sometimes Jalen Hurts is able to get those deep throws, those middle throws, those slant routes. But still, a lot of times we have 3-and-outs, and that's when we stalling out, because instead of you running the ball, you want to throw it on second and third and third and third and just something stupid. Like, why not run the ball? Because they asked him about that 3rd-and-out, and I don't even know what he said, because I didn't even want to hear what he said, because I'm sure it was stupid as I don't know what. Like, you should have kept running the ball. And Rashad Penny looked really well, and I wanted to see him more because he's a heavy dude. To me, that reminds me of LeGarrette Blount, how we used him and Ajay and Ajayi. You know what I'm saying? Like, we used them interchangeably, because one was kind of like Swift, and then the other was a big, like Derrick Henry, like, could just bulldoze you through. So I'm not, but then you have my boy out there catching return catches. Why was he on special teams? Can somebody tell me why he was on the special team?
It doesn't make any sense.
He's not Boston Scott, not Brenton Kobe. I'm sick of Nick. I'm sick of Nick this year. I'm sick of Nick. I'm telling you, some of those plays be Nick. I don't think a lot of those plays, maybe BJ been catching more heat than what he should have. Some of those plays, I think, is Nick overriding him, honestly.
I feel like it has to be.
It has to be.
Like, I can understand, like you said, the 3rd and 30, where, say, it's a different situation in the game. Maybe you're trying to, cause a pass interference, draw the pass interference flag. But at that point in the game, you're up 2 scores. You should be running that clock down. It's 4th quarter. You should be running that clock down. Why are you throwing it deep on a 3rd and 30? Not 3rd and 30, but it was 3rd down. And what was it, 3-4 yards? Like, what are you doing?
That's why our heart was pounding. That game really went down to the wire because of that dumb play there.
If you're gonna throw it to just the 1st down. But I prefer running it because you can get that clock going still. But it's just, it's that. And there was a couple other times too, and those last couple of drives, because we didn't score any points in that 4th quarter. It's just because of just dumb plays. Like, I know the one slant should have been automatic to AJ after they got out of that, tush push from their own end zone. But they're not running when they should be. But And I feel like they use the excuse. Cause I mean, DeAndre Swift probably got the most carries out of all these games so far, 18. And that's not a lot, I feel like, for DeAndre Swift, what he can do. But I feel like they use those numbers just to justify that they're doing well. And it's like, this is the first time he's had 18 carries and who knows how many games, if he's even had that many all year.
Like that, what? Since the second game of the season, probably. That's probably the only other game we had close to that.
But then Jalen had 10 right up under him. Why is your quarterback right up under your running back? Make it make sense.
We almost lost him. We thought our season was over for 30 seconds when this dude was down on the ground. And you have him running 10 times? I thought it was over. I thought we lost our boy for a good 20 seconds when he was sitting there on the ground holding his knee and stuff. I was like, what is going on right now?
Like he couldn't get up. I said, oh, my heart, I died. I think I died for a second.
I think we all did. I couldn't believe it. Like your heart just drops and you're like, oh no, this is it. This has all been
Marcus Mariota on his way out. I said, oh
God, no. Please no.
I gotta say, like I saw like they flipped the camera to Marcus Mariota. I think my breath hits for like 30 seconds. Like I was like that's my biggest fear, y'all. Like
they limping off the field. I was like, oh God, no, please. But like you haven't run 10 times and DeAndre Swift 18. Like you said, Kenny Gainwell had that what was it, 15-yard run for a touchdown or something. He only had 3 carries all game. And this dude, he was just defending Kenny Gainwell last week about his usage and everything. And now you barely use him in this game. So what's it going to be? It's like when the fans don't want you to use them, you use them more. But whenever everything's all right, you score a touchdown, then you decide not to use them. It's like, I don't understand the thinking process behind any of these decisions. Or how the offense can go from looking really great, you're scoring damn near every drive, to you can't do anything in a whole quarter. It just doesn't make any sense.
Well, one thing I can say about Dougie P, he knew how to, when he had them running backs, he knew how to use them, man.
Exactly. It's going to make your life easier, especially for a QB that's obviously hurt, that's dealing with an injury. Why wouldn't you help him out as much as possible?
Keep talking about our run game. So that means obviously the problem. Like not only the fans, but everybody else is saying about our run game and our secondary. Like those two things have not been figured out by any means.
And Penny looked good. Like you said, Penny looked good on those 2 carries he had. And then you didn't see him at all, other than back there to possibly return a kick or a punt. You know, it's use them. You have running backs. It could help your pass offense out. I know you guys like the pass, but believe us, the running game opens up that pass even more than what you are already doing.
Like that dumb play where Jalen Hurts threw it into triple coverage. Well, I'm so glad it was not picked off. Who called that play? Why would Jalen even do that? I'm sorry. Like triple coverage, Jalen. I mean, I know it was AJ Brown, but dang, like you ain't even throw it for him. You ain't even lead him, man.
Yeah. And you can't tell me just because Cam Jurgens is out, that's why you're not running. Like it should not be based off of just one offensive lineman. Like, come on.
No.
So there was that same play. I was having a conversation with a guy, and he's a Cowboys fan, so he said. So I said, "Oh, I feel like that was PI, right?" So he says, "Oh, there's no PI. They didn't bump him." I said, "The dude had his face mask and jumped up with his hand on his face mask. How is it not PI?" So he tries to show me. He's like, "Oh, I got a slow down angle and a reverse angle and blah blah blah." I'm like, bro, no matter how much you slow down the angle, this was AJ Brown's. Let me find something so I can visualize this for y'all. This was AJ Brown's helmet. This was his hand on the face mask, pulling AJ Brown down and himself up to dot the ball away. I don't know what planet that couldn't be PI. And the whole thing is, we talked about that play. He wanted to really harp on that, but my whole thing was the whole game. There was a lot of calls missed both ways. That happens in NFL games. It's a crazy thing, but that does happen in NFL games. It's crazy, but it's part of the game. But my only thing about Nick is simply this. Nick, I know some of this is definitely you, number one. Number two, I just don't understand why we're scared to run the ball when we should. Like, we run the ball so little that people don't even know how to run the plays. Like AJ Brown doesn't even know how to run across and not knock
Oh my
Devontae,
gosh.
Swift out, DeAndre Swift
Yeah,
out because
knock
they
his
don't
block off.
do it enough. They don't even practice it enough. It's got to be it. So it's disappointing that we just don't care about the run. It seems like for a team that's been built for many, many years on the running game and defense first. You got the quarterback, you got the wide receivers. That's great, but it doesn't mean you forget how to run the ball. And I feel like and the reason why I feel like a lot of this is Nicky tight pants is because this was the offense hurts year one.
Yeah.
Before Steichen took over. This was that same offense. Throw, 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 throw. Now I do feel like BJ's gotten more running plays in than we would have previously. But I don't feel like Nicky's really turned the playbook over to him and said, "You're gonna be the coach, you run the plays. You're gonna coach the offense, you run the plays. If I feel like a play is not a good idea, I'll override it. But I'll, for the most part, let you do your thing." I feel like he's interjecting himself too much into it. So I hope that our head coach understands we need to play defense and run the ball. Take the shots when they're there. Absolutely. But too many attempts from our quarterback. Too many runs from our quarterback. You've got a stable of guys. If you have two of those guys out, the other two should be running the ball. Yeah, you did have Boston Scott out, but like you said, Penny looked good when he played. So why hasn't he been playing? That's my question. Like, what's going on in that running back room? But let's get this thing figured out in this bye week. We have got to come out and we have got to punch the Chiefs in the mouth multiple times.
Have to.
So that's what we're gonna worry about all that next week. This week we're gonna bask in the glory of the defeat of the hated Dallas Cowboys. That's why I got the championship belt on the back, because we beat the Cowboys. And the Cowboys fans will say, "Oh, is your Super Bowl?" It wasn't our Super Bowl. Our Super Bowl is played when the Super Bowl happens to win championships. Yeah, I know you don't understand it anymore because all you have is old VHS tapes of when you won. But to win now, you got to get there. And beating you does not define our season, win or lose. It's nice to brag. It's nice to be like, yeah. And I called it before the season. I said, we're going to sweep the Cowboys. It is what it is. I think we will. I called it before the season. I think we're going to have 4 losses. We'll see. If it's 5 instead of 4, I can live with that too. But I think what we may have is, depending on how this little group works right here, they may have to play all 18 weeks to get that number 1 seed. So we'll see how all that goes. But for now, 8-1, I'm very happy with going into our bye week.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so Diva, we're going to do something a little different. I know you like to do the stats a little bit, but if you don't have all of them, I got your back. But talk about some of the stats for the offense, the defense, and the rankings within the league for some of these stats. And also, who's our leader in, the different statistical categories, sacks, receptions, yards. We know who's yards for passing, right? We know who that is. Running yards, carries, all those good things, just to let y'all understand at this kind of midpoint in the season where the Philadelphia Eagles are at.
Right. So believe it or not, looking at this, we actually have more time of possession by a minute, like literally a minute and some seconds. We had no lost fumbles. Finally, we actually held on to the ball this time. Penalties was 10 of 10, so we both had 10 penalties out of 83. So there was no refs that let us win the game, y'all. Y'all know your stats. Rushing attempts was we had 33. They had 21 yards per rush. They had 3.5. We had 3.3. Sack yards lost, we only had 3. Yards per pass, we had 7. They had 6. Completed attempts was 17. They had 29. Total yards, Dallas had 406. We had 292. Total drives, we had 9. They had 10. Total plays, y'all, they had 70. We only had 59. So that just goes to show you, like, we still underplayed y'all and still beat y'all. Third down efficiency, we were 7 for 14. Y'all were Dallas was 6 for 15. Fourth down efficiencies, 3 for 5 for them, 2 for 2 for us. Rushing first downs, we had 7. Thanks to actually using the run game. A little bit of times we did use it. Passing for first downs, we had 10, they had 19. And that's because of our defense. Player by play stat. Total, Jalen had 207 yards. He had 17 for 23. So him throwing the ball went down a lot because normally he's throwing it between 30 and 40 times a game. So that went down a lot. DeAndre Swift had 18 carries for 43 yards. Jalen Hurts right up under him for 10 carries, 36 yards, which is still too much for a quarterback. Kenneth Gainwell had 3 for 22 plus a touchdown. Jalen Hurts also had a touchdown with a tush push. Rashard Penny had 2 carries for 8 yards. A.J. Brown had 7 carries, 66 yards, and 1 touchdown. Devontae Smith had 3 carries, 51 yards, 1 touchdown. Dallas Goedert had 3 carries, 3 touches, and 50 yards. DeAndre Swift actually had a receiving. He had 2 for 31. Zacchaeus had 1 for 8. Gainwell had 1 for 1. Let's see. Tyler Steen actually recovered a fumble. DeAndre Swift recovered his fumble. Evidently, Jalen Hurts recovered his fumble. And Reed Blankenship recovered a fumble at the end of the game. Zach Cunningham had 10 total sacks. Kevin Byard was right behind him with 9. Big play Aunt Slay had 8. Blankenship had 7. Ballberry played a little bit better, had 6. Eli Ricks had 4. Sweat had 4. Sidney Brown had 3. Nakobe Dean had 3. Hassan Reddick had 2. And I think he had like 5 pressures in the beginning. Brandon Graham had 2, which saved that touchdown from Dak, who don't have to stay in bounds. Nicholas Morrow had 2. Jordan Davis had 2. Jalen Carter had 2. And Fletcher Cox had 2. And I didn't even know Josh Jobe was even on the field. Noah Smith had 1. Keely Ringo had 1. Patrick Johnson had 1.
Yeah, Nolan Smith played a little bit more. What was it? Derek Barnett was inactive this week. Finally.
He was staying active.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't doing much anyway.
And I didn't even know Josh Jobe was on the field, so.
Nah.
So since
We
we're
gotta have a
talking
conversation about
Cowboys
Ballberry, too. That dude,
Ballberry
does not look like himself at all this season. Over the whole season, it hasn't looked like
we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about it before we get off here. But since we're talking about the Cowboys game, why any thoughts that you have on the the Cowboys game? And then while you're at it, go ahead and knock out a few things here, cross off, check out a couple of boxes. Give us your player of the game, your elite performer of the game, as well as your forgot what we call them, as well as your weakest link for the week.
The weakest link.
Yeah.
I mean, overall, I think the offense overall did exactly what they needed to for most of the game. That fourth quarter could have definitely been a lot better as far as milking some clock and just putting some points on the board in general. The main thing was how terrible the defense was. This is 2 weeks in a row that you getting sliced and diced every which way. It's not just the middle of the field anymore. It doesn't matter where. I mean, they're taking advantage of the corners too. I mean, like I mentioned, Ballberry's not looking great. They're picking on Ricks at this point. I mean, Blankenship didn't look too great. I mean, he had a couple stops there, especially he had a part in that goal line stop where the tight end almost got the touchdown. I mean, it seems like the defensive line comes in exactly when you need them to in those clutch moments, especially at the end of the game. I mean, they had a couple sacks during the course of the game itself, but they really came alive at the very end. But that secondary has just looked terrible. It looked abysmal the past 2 games, and this type of play is not sustainable for a championship caliber team. Like, I understand the offense can put up points pretty much at will when you need them to, but this defense has got to be better if we want to go to the Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl this season. This is not sustainable because, I mean, we got the Chiefs coming up. Pat Mahomes and them could slice and dice you worse than Dak Prescott and Sam Howell did. I don't know. It's just, I don't know if it's the scheme or just the players at this point. I mean, we talked about it. We argued about it a little bit last week about it, whether it's the scheme or the players. And I mean, I could see it being on the players, but this game, it just looked like it was a scheme issue. It looked like Desai didn't have these guys prepared at all. And it doesn't seem like they're, like we mentioned before, it doesn't seem like they even try to get pressure or, have rush 5 guys until late in the game. Like, why aren't you doing this all game to get the quarterback, uncomfortable? Why are you waiting until the fourth quarter and like late in the third? I don't know. It just seems like it is mostly the scheme that's causing the issue here. I understand that you're working with different pieces every single week, but you got to play to these guys' strengths too. Like, there was no reason Darius Slay wasn't on CD the whole game. Like, why wasn't he following him the whole game? It was only the second half where he was actually following him the whole time. You had Ricks on him. It's like, you need to make these adjustments sooner than later, because if we were playing a better team at that point, or we weren't able to kind of capitalize on a lot of their faults, where that's what happened that first drive. I mean, it was fine, went 3 and out, but any of the other drives that they petered out was because they dropped the ball. It wasn't because of our defenders getting there on time. It was because of their own mistakes. And you can't rely on that every single week to get a stop. It's just the other team to make it their own mistakes. You have to be a part of this at some point. You can't just get lucky to stop the other team.
All right. And what about your elite performance and your weakest link, sir?
Elite performance, I'm gonna give it to Jalen Hurts. I cannot not give it to Jalen Hurts after going down for a little bit and then coming right out that time. He got that Pat Mahomes shot, or that MJ secret juice from Space Jam, and that on halftime, man, the way he came out. I gotta give to him though, because I mean, he only missed like 6 throws this game, and he was 207 yards, 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. Our boy getting better with the no turnovers here these past 3-4 weeks. But I gotta give it to Jalen Hurts. The weakest link is Sean Desai and that whole defense.
All right, Diva. Your thoughts on the game as well as your elite performance and weakest link.
I mean, my thoughts is, I mean, it was really, the defense, besides that 3 and out, and then the bad clock management at the end of the game, making us actually go down to the wire. And thankfully, the D actually held up at that the last 30 seconds, because, I mean, they marched it down the field, and then, we actually helped them march down the field with penalties, and then they got backed up with their own penalties, and then I was just scared about that coverage, because I'm like, y'all, I don't understand the coverage. It seems like Sean Desai does not know the strengths of his players and know how to use them in what coverage to use them against teams like Dallas and the Commanders. Because, I mean, you did a great job with LA Rams, which, of course, they haven't been as well as we are used to them seeing, but they have a good defense. I mean, they have Aaron Donald. And then Miami, which has a good defense and offense, you were able to hold their offense. So you were able to figure that out. But then when it came to playing the Commanders twice, you basically almost gave up the game twice. Well, actually, the first game, he did actually do better. It was the offense that did bad on the first Commanders game. But the second, and then this game, listen. The only person that was actually bringing pressure before we got to the end was Hassan Reddick. Like, Hassan, you could look in his eyes and see he was fixed on Dak. Like, that's all he was fixed on, was getting to Dak. And he got to him a couple of times, like a lot of times. But, I mean, it couldn't just be him. And then we saw him go down, and I'm like, oh, my goodness, like, we ain't about to get no pressure now because Hassan Reddick is down.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just like he didn't put the right players in the right place at the right time. I don't know why he had Eli Ricks covering CB Lamb, because, I mean, Eli Ricks is a rookie. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's got good coverage, but he's not versed enough to be able to handle a receiver like CB Lamb, period. So you definitely should have had Slay, if not just Slay, because we know sometimes Slay can get turned up and get turned around. You got to have coverage underneath and over top, especially when you have tall receivers like that, okay? And then the Ferguson dude, came out there and balled out when nobody expected him to ball out. I mean, they gave Gallup all that money, and I ain't seen Gallup all season, so I don't know what happened with that.
No.
But, CB and Ferguson was killing us. Them two alone was killing us. And then if they wasn't playing too far off the receiver, they wasn't jamming them at the line, and they just was. It's like they were all lost. They didn't know who they were supposed to be covering. Kobe D was supposed to be covering one player, was covering another player. Like it's not working. I don't know. I don't know. Like you could tell Desai how he like sometimes he knows what he's doing, but then it's like other games he's not preparing like he should with different defenses. I mean, different offenses. Like it's not. I don't know if he's not watching the film and getting prepared for them, but that whole scheme was garbage. I'm just glad that the caliber of players we had realized, hey, we got to stop the Cowboys or we're going to lose. And they were able to get those key stops like that one stop Blankenship had right there at the 1 yard line where the old boy was coming down and he touched him in his knee. Basically, he was breaking him down on his knee. So that saved a touchdown. And then with Ballberry and Slade flipping Dak, that saved a touchdown. So, and then Brandon Graham chasing after Dak, basically pushing him out of bounds, saved another 2-point conversion. So, I mean, they showed up when it needed to be, but that game shouldn't even been that close, man. Like, it really shouldn't even been that close.
Not at all. They had plenty of chances to put it out of reach, too, and they just weren't able to do it.
Yes, and us not scoring in the fourth quarter was horrible. Like, we got to start just pushing the gas, man, because there's no reason why that game should have been that close. There's no reason why we couldn't have blown them out or damn near blew them out. We stopped using that run game. That's the problem. Like we'll use the run game a few times. Like, oh, we use run game, y'all, and then it's back to straight passing.
It's a continuing issue from last year where we just we didn't know what to do with the lead the whole time.
So, that's my thoughts on the game. I mean, I'm just glad we pulled that W out, but really it was a nail biter and a heart stopper, period. Okay. Don't do that again, y'all. So my player of the game is going to be Smitty because Smitty we haven't really seen Smitty as much as we're used to seeing him, but he came up and he played big in Dallas like he did last year. And so, Smitty is my player. And I gotta add Hassan Reddick in there, man, because that boy was like beasting. And my weakest link is that secondary, man. That whole secondary is just garbage. Like I don't know if it's secondary, if it's the side, I don't know, but I mean, for them to be as talented as they are, still, even if he's not putting you in good positions, you got to put yourself in those positions. If you know your spot, if you know how to play, if you're reading the offense, you should know how to put yourself in a position and guard the right player, man.
Yeah, we have no way to stop tight ends. It's terrible. The tight ends just take advantage of us, and that's what kind of worries me about the next matchup because we got the tight end of all tight ends, and we've seen what he can do against us.
Right.
So, for me, with the Cowboys game, the offense did not hold up their end of the bargain. The defense went down, stopped them. We got 7. Defense stopped them again. We let them score. I mean, and then defense stopped them again. We couldn't put up points. They got the ball right back in 3 plays. They go down and go up 14-7. That was the story of the game. We didn't do enough offensively. While there are issues with the defense, and y'all have eloquently talked about them, if we run the ball, if we had more drives that were 8-9 minutes, Dallas is not in this game. If we kept our defense off of the field more, Dallas is not in this game. I mean, Bradbury hasn't been playing as good as he's played in the past. I don't know if maybe he's dinged up. Maybe the scheme fit isn't working and they need to make some changes. Maybe there's some missed assignments. I don't know what's happened. But I will say this. If you want to help a defense that's struggling, you do something offensively. The Eagles got away from that. They started doing that, and then they said, oh, we're not going to do that. We're going to go back to the foolishness that we've been doing, trying to run plays quick, all these passes, getting 3 and outs. You mean to tell me with that offensive line, whether you have Rashard Penny, even Gainwell, they can't Gainwell, or Swift back there, that we can't get 10 yards in 3 plays? They showed us in the game that they could do it, but they stopped doing it. They go to it for a little bit, then they go away from it. They don't do a good job of saying, you know what? Let's help the defense. Let's help the quarterback. Let's run the ball. That's our deficiency. And I'm not saying we don't have other deficiencies, but the lack of a consistent running game, the lack of putting on film. We are going to run the ball down your throat until you find a way to stop us. It's not there. So teams aren't coming into the games with the Philadelphia Eagles saying, we got to stack the box. We got to stop them from running. They come into the game saying, let's put an extra spy on Jalen Hurts because he run the balls almost as much as the running backs. And let's watch the run and let's watch the pass game. Let's drop back to safeties. Let's play zones. Let's play man in certain situations. There were plays in that game where there was no penalty either way, but Dallas was just able to make plays because we weren't there. We didn't hold the ball on offense the whole game. We didn't say we are going to impose our will offensively ever in this game. We never once in this game imposed our will offensively. No points in the fourth quarter, again, against Dallas. Doesn't matter how good the defense is. If you can't put points on the board, you're not going to win games against good teams. Because if our defense goes out and they stop Kansas City Chiefs 2/3 of the time, they're still going to put up points the other third of the time. We've got to find a way to say, you know what? Ball control offense. Hand the ball off 3 times. If we can't get a first down, I will. If we get a first down, hand the ball off 3 more times. If we get another first down, hand the ball off 3 more times. If we get into a 4th and 1, tush push. Keep moving the ball in the field. That will open up this crazy thing that A.J. Brown is the best receiver in the NFL, in my opinion, and it's called play action. You let A.J. Brown get half a step on anybody, and you put the ball where only he can get it, 9.95 times out of 10, he's going to get it. But these are things that we have to work on. We have to use the running game to set up the passing game. We didn't do that against Dallas. We haven't been doing it all year, and you see it almost cost us. Again, we won the game. So I'm not sitting here to say, oh, blah, blah, blah. But in order to continue to win, in order to get to a goal that I believe we have, which is to get back to the Super Bowl and do the one thing we can to improve this season, you have to learn to run the ball. You're concerned about Swift getting hurt. There's a lot of people talking about that. All you can do is go out and play the game. If he gets hurt, he gets hurt. I'm not wishing he gets hurt. I love what he brings to the team, but he needs carries. If you're not going to give him carries, then we need to get Penny in the game. We need to get Scott in the game, even Gainwell to done Gainwell in the game. And I'll give Gainwell props. He had a good run in the red zone in this game, but that doesn't negate all the other ones where he didn't. What I find funny is you have all these people and they're like, oh, Gainwell told y'all, he showed y'all. You did it one time. Congratulations, we needed it. But you haven't done it all the other 8 games. You did it in one, not the other 8. So until you can do it consistently, I remain Kenneth Gainwell needs the ball less. We need to get a ball to Rashard Penny, Boston Scott, and Swift more. That's who needs the ball. You want to work Gainwell in? Hey, that's on you, but you should see what else you have. Gainwell is your complementary back. He's not your every down back. If you're not running with Swift, you need to be running with one of these other guys. Use your depth. Run the freaking ball. Stop this. Jalen Hurts got to have 6,000 passing yards. No, he doesn't. Stop it. Play the game that the Philadelphia Eagles play. Defense, run the ball, give the defense a break. You know the defense isn't great. But you take guys that just came off the field, they sit down for 3 plays. Before they can even get a Gatorade, they got to go back on the field because the offense is 3 and out again. That's not going to help any defense. That's not going to help the 2000 Baltimore Ravens defense. That's not going to help our Jim Johnson defenses from the 90s or the early 2000s. You have to allow a defense to rest. You have to maintain drives on the offensive side too. And everything can't be, 3 plays and we scored. Yay. There's still 3 plays and you scored. That means your defense got to get back out in the field still. So come on, guys. Work together. The special teams, I will say one thing for you special teams. I haven't talked about you this year. That's good because last year I talked about you a lot and it was all negative. So you aren't great, but you're at least mid this year. That's a huge upgrade from being bottom 5. So kudos to that dude. Keep up the good work. We'll take mid special teams above that trash we had last year.
Let me tell you what it is. This is what it really is. It's the fact that the offense doesn't play like they supposed to some games, and then the defense is the same way. So that's taking over what the special teams is doing. Because it ain't been no run. Like, the special teams is not where they need to be. If we're not running the ball back from the 20-yard line all the way down, bruh, we need to get down to the 50-yard line. It's not good enough for me. It's just that everything else is overshadowing.
We're not going to get. We don't have the guys to get to the 50. You want to get to the 50, you better send in a few $1 million to Jeffrey Lurie and go get the guys to do that. We don't have the guys to do that. We've got the guys to get to the 20, 25, maybe the 30 every once in a while.
Well, that's our fault. I mean,
yeah.
Again,
we haven't talked about Covey not being there. I'm assuming Covey's not on there because Julio got pumped up, right?
Yeah, but you got to remember. Hurts got paid. Brown got his contract a few years ago. Smitty's contract's coming. Reddick got paid. Johnson gets paid. Like, you got to remember, there's a lot of guys on this team to get paid. So there is a hard salary cap in the NFL. So the area where we're not getting quality people is special teams.
Bruh.
So if you want the quality people on special teams, then we got to let some of this other talent walk because we can't have it all.
Bro, you can use
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate.
Or you could not work Kenny Gainwell and use.
I mean, you should use Kenny Gainwell, but they're not going to do that because according to Nick Sirianni, he's the second best running back on the team, and he shows it in practice, in games, and on film. I mean, I don't know what film he's watching. I don't know what kind of substances, alcohol or otherwise that he's using when he's watching these, but that's what he believes. So the problem is, as long as he believes that, he's not going to be on special teams. He's going to be running the ball. I'm not saying that it's the best situation for him. I'm just saying, based on the guys that we are having in special teams, I think our special teams is average because they're getting the most they can out of the talent that they have for special teams. Our special teams is basically like the New York Giants starting offense. It ain't much there, but you got to get the best out of what you got.
I think it helps because we upgraded at least as far as a punter goes.
The punter definitely helped.
Was it Braden Mann? He's been doing a decent job here so far.
We haven't talked about it. We haven't talked about it. We haven't said Braden Mann's back there screwing up. He's not getting the punts deep. We're not talking about it. The best thing we could do when you had a horrible special teams the year before is not talk about them next year. That means you have improvement. It's not great. It's not top 10. It's probably 17th to 20th. But last year, if you ask me, it was 29th to 31st. So I feel like, overall we have a better group than we did last year. So I want to take a few minutes, y'all, and go over some stats as of today for the team. So passing yards for the Philadelphia Eagles, 260.8 passing yards per game. That's 8th in the NFL. Rushing yards, 129.7 rushing yards per game. That's 7th in the NFL. Total yards per game, 390.4 for the offense, and that is 3rd in the NFL. All right, so let's talk about a couple of team leaders, and then we'll go back to some of the other individual stats. Passing yards for team leaders, Jalen Hurts, 2,347 yards. Rushing yards, DeAndre Swift has 614. Jalen Hurts is 2nd with 316. Gainwell is 3rd with 175. Scott is 4th with 45. That tells you everything you need to know about.
With as much as you use Kenny Gainwell, this dude doesn't even have 200 yards.
175 yards. The misdistribution of yards. DeAndre Swift should be getting the ball more. Jalen Hurts should be getting the ball less. That's what it tells you. All right, then at wide receiver. Receiving yards, we know Swole Batman already over 1,000, 1,005, 2nd in the league right now.
That's nuts.
Yeah, Devontae Smith. And here's the crazy part. Devontae Smith has 533. So we talk about, we haven't seen Smitty be used and this and that. He's on pace to have another 1,000-yard season.
Yeah.
And Dallas Goedert has 410, and DeAndre Swift has 166, which I don't even understand how he has 166 personally, but that's what the stats say. All right, so sack leaders. Hassan Reddick's up to 7.5 sacks. Josh Sweat has 6.5. Jalen Carter has 4, which is a rookie record, I believe. And Nicholas Morrow has 3. Interceptions, Darius Slay and Reed Blankenship both have 2. No one else has 1 so far this year. All right, total tackles. Zach Cunningham leads the team with 54. Reed Blankenship is second with 53. Slay has 40, and Bradbury has 31. All right, so we'll go to some of the other stats here. So we talked about rushing yards per game and those things. So point score per game, of course, 28. That's second in the league. Total yards per game, we talked about that 390.4, rushing and all that good stuff. So defensive stats, a couple of defensive stats here. Actually, before we go to defense, I'm jumping around. Let me also add time of possession. So time of possession for the offense, 33.48, 33.48. That's third in the league in time of possession. So 33 minutes and 48 seconds is how long we have for time of possession. That's third in the league. So then we'll go to some defensive stats. So points against per game, 21.7. That's 20th in the league. Total yards against per game, 323.33. That's 13th in the league. Passing yards against per game, 257. That's 29th in the league. Rushing yards against per game, 66.3. That's first. Sacks, we have 30 sacks as a team. That's fourth. Interceptions, we have 4, of course, 2 and 2, and that's 26 in the league. So when you look at it, most of the categories, the Eagles are in the upper echelon of the league. The ones that we are not, we bad. Passing yards against per game, 257.
29th.
29th in the league. There's only 3 trace teams worse than us in all of the NFL.
Yeah, you gotta clean that up.
We're giving up 21.7, but we're scoring 28. That's why we're 8 and 1. That's why we're 8 and 1. Interceptions were 26. We got to get more turnovers. We've got to get more interceptions. You know, these are things that you can see from the numbers. I'm not a huge numbers guy. We're going to bang numbers in your throat all day. But sometimes you look at the numbers just to see where you're at. You understand why things are going the way they're going. So let's talk about rushing attempts, right? Let's talk about receptions real quick. Rushing attempts. DeAndre Swift has 135. He's averaging 4.5, and that's after his last trash game, including his stats. Jalen Hurts has 88 rushes. He's averaging 3.6 yards a carry. And obviously, tush push negatively affects his overall. Gainwell has 54 carries for 172 yards. He's averaging 3.2 yards a carry. Boston Scott has 8 rushes for 45 yards. That's 5.6 yards a carry. Rashad Penny has 5 rushes for 17 yards. That's 3.4. The lowest per rush average here is Kenneth Gainwell. But he's your second best running back.
Right.
Stop the cap. Nikki Tight Pants, stop the cap.
That's what I just don't understand. This is what we've been talking about for weeks now. Like, look at Boston Scott. Like, I don't understand. Like, he talks about looking at the tape and practice and everything. Like, we've seen what Boston can do in numerous games over numerous seasons.
All I'm saying, man, I don't know what he's drinking or smoking or sniffing when he's looking at this stuff, but it's got to be something. He has to have an altered state of consciousness or something. Yeah. I don't understand any other way where you see that, where you see what we don't see. But receptions, 67 for AJ Brown, 42 for Smitty, 38 for Goddard, 30. DeAndre Swift has 30 receptions.
Jeez,
I don't even know
all that often.
Bruh.
How?
I'm surprised. Hey, Zacchaeus has 6 receptions. Gainwell has 15. Scott has 3. Quez Watkins has 4 receptions. Julio has 2. One on 4 touchdowns.
That dude was on the team.
I didn't even want to say the name, but I had to. Jack Stahl has 2, and Rashad Penny has 1. So receptions, obviously AJ Brown having a big year. He's averaging 15 yards as well. The only other player close to him is Zacchaeus, who has 14.5 yards. Smitty has 12.7 yards of reception. Goddard has 10.8. We ain't gonna talk about anybody else because they're not even close to 10. Yeah. Well, Zacchaeus is at 9. Well, yeah. Anybody else really close to 10, so ain't nothing to really talk about. But we gotta talk about the guy who's probably our best player and that's Jake Elliott. And when you can say a kicker is your best player, that's a concern.
It is. Even at 8-1.
It's a concern.
But dude's been automatic. And this dude, I'm glad we scooped him off of we like the Bengals practice squad in 2017. And this dude been, a legit kicker for us. Like clutch as they come.
Yeah, and our returns, man. We have a lot of guys that have one return. Scott, Covey, Devin Allen, Chris Watkins, the kids. We're not getting a lot of returns, but that just means the other team is able to get off good punts. Now, go to defense a little bit here, and we'll just talk about some overall stuff here. So obviously we know that only 2 people have interceptions. The only person that scored a touchdown interception, of course, is Darius Slay. Tackles, Zach Cunningham has 34 solo tackles, 20 assisted, so he has 54 total tackles. Reed Blankenship has 37 solo, 16 assists, so he has 53 total tackles. Darius Slay has 33 solo, 7 assisted, he has 40 total. James Bradbury has 23, 8 assisted, 31 total. Nicholas Morrow has 25 solo, 5 assisted, so there's 30 total. Nakobe Dean has 22 solo, 8 assisted, so a total of 30 tackles. And keep in mind, he's missed games. Terrell Edmonds, when he was on the team, 19 solo, 7 assisted, total 26. Josh Sweat, 16 solo, 8 assisted, total 24. And then we just go down. Milton Williams, total 20. Cox has 6 solo, 11 assisted. But Cox also has, sacks, 1.5 sacks. So the defense has done what they need to do, right? They're making plays. You got guys all the way down to Josiah Scott, Bradley Roby, who have a couple of tackles. So you got guys making plays, pass deflections. All those things are happening, right? Blankenship has 10 pass deflections to lead the team, right?
Yeah.
Slay has 7. Bradbury has 6. Zach Cunningham has 3 pass deflections. Josh Joby somehow has 4. Eli Ricks has 1. Vontae Maddox has 2. Brandon Graham has a pass deflection. Sidney Brown has a pass deflection. Fletcher Cox does. Hassan Reddick does. So a lot of guys getting in on it. Morrow has a safety. Josh Swift has a pass deflection. So a lot of guys getting in. What it shows you is, to me, when I looked at these stats, right, when I kind of went through all this stuff, what I learned was simply this. We have a lot of talent. It may not always be used the proper way, but we have a lot of talent. We got the Eagles Collective in the building.
What's going on?
What's up? What's up, fellas? It's probably Warren, maybe Jay. What up, Jay and Warren, man? Appreciate y'all checking in with us. Some of my brothers that do Eagles content with, I've been on their show. Hopefully we can get them up here, talk a little Eagles with us one Wednesday. When I look at the stats, it tells me it's not necessarily that guys can't play. I get Bradbury, we call him Ballberry. He's had some bad games, right? But we look at the overall, guys are making plays. We're not getting the turnovers that we got last year. That's something that we need to change. But that's consistency. That's the same guys playing and being put in good positions. And that's something that, a new coordinator is going to struggle with, right? Just like a new coordinator is going to struggle with play calling. But what I find interesting is if we take out passing yards and we take out points per game, and obviously it's theoretical, but if we take those 2 things out, this Eagles defense is a monster, right? Because if we're not giving up, because we're 13th in total yards per game. But if we cut back on the passing yards that we're giving up a game,
easily goes up in the top 10.
They easily get a top 10. I mean, we're 20th in points per game, but we're 2nd in points scored. So, we're going to be lower in points per game because we're scoring so many points, which means there are going to be times where we're having quick play offenses. So I just feel like there are things that defense can fix. There are things the offense can fit. Absolutely. There's always things that can be fixed. But as a group, man, this looks really good. If we could just clean up the things that need to be cleaned up, this could be a very, very strong team for us moving forward.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a combination of different things, though. Like as far as the patchwork defense, where you have to plug and play different players every single week due to injuries, and then you have a lot of inexperience too. You got a lot of young guys you're gonna have to just throw into the fire each week by doing so. I mean, you do have your veterans on there, which helps, especially and towards the end of these games where they have to come up with a big sack or a big stop, where it seems like they are able to. But it's just a combination of just like you said, the new defensive coordinator, inexperience, and then everything else, like the patchwork defense and all that. It's just a mix of all of that. I feel like if you had some continuation, some continuity throughout the season where you have the same secondary for 4, 5, 6 maybe games, I could see it possibly getting better from there. They're able to kind of figure something out, get into a rhythm where it's like every week is a different secondary. They're moving different pieces around, having Slay sometimes on the number one receiver, sometimes he's not. They're putting Ricks or like a safety on him. I feel like there's definitely some good stuff to be looked at though. Like you mentioned with the stats, like it's easy to look at some of the film and see like Bree Blankenship isn't doing well in coverage in certain spots, but looking at the stats and everything, you could see how well he is doing though. Like as far as tackles, he has 2 picks on the season. He's a player that you can easily see over the course of the next couple of years. He's gonna be getting better and better and better. Like he's a very physical player out there. Like he's a hard hitter. And it's just kind of it's going to take a whole season or two just to kind of figure out a rhythm, figure out his play style and what he's good at. And then once he figures that out, then it goes from there. I think he's definitely going to be a big piece of this defense going forward here through the next couple of years. Same with a couple of these other guys, but I mean, it's just having to throw them into the fire is not going to look great at first until they're able to figure it out with the secondary and everything, and or they get removed and then they don't have any game reps through the next couple games and they're thrown right back into a starting role again. It's like it's hard to look impressive or put good film together whenever that's happening.
This is very true. Hey man, so why do you have any other thoughts before we are done for the evening, sir?
No, I mean, it sounds like we out here just taking the air out of an 8-1 team, but I mean, we just got to look at what we need to work on. This is exactly what we're talking about right now. Is exactly what Sirianni and the offensive and defensive coordinators should be looking at through this bye week. They should be examining every single thing that's happened this season, as well as going back, like we always talk about, and look what happened last year. Look what we were doing well last year, incorporated into this game, because we haven't been seeing a lot of that. So, I mean, this is exactly the right time to be self-evaluating, exactly the right time to be getting healthy. I mean, it's 8-1. I can't complain, man. I can't complain at all. Just get healthy over this next week because we have a huge game coming up. We got a Super Bowl rematch coming up, and hopefully we're looking to get the dub in this one.
Little LJ, what's up? Appreciate you checking in with us as well. Make sure y'all leaving those likes. Make sure y'all sharing for your peoples too. Appreciate you watching. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So, for me, man, we could look back on the bye week. We could talk about who's going to play, who's not going to play. If there's going to be changes of depth charts, guys going to play after this week. I did not give my player of the game or my weakest link. And little LJ, like this guy already, fly Eagles fly.
Yes, Eagles fly. Go Birds.
All right, 8-1, absolutely. So for my player of the game, I'm going to go Steen. I'm going to go Tyler Steen.
Oh, okay. I see. You haven't talked about him at all, and I know you've been waiting for him to get those game reps.
Yeah, and the reason I'm gonna go Steen is they were able to run where he was at. I mean, he got beat a few times, but what guy making his first start is not? He came up with that fumble that probably saved our game. Because if he doesn't get that fumble recovery, if the Cowboys get that, we're not talking about a win. I don't think right now. The way we were playing, True. Without being able to do anything in the fourth. So big ups to him for that. I struggled with narrowing down one player, but it's only fair if I narrow down one player. So it's going to have to be somebody on the defense. And I hate to say this. I really hate to say this. I got to go with Jalen Carter.
Oh,
you know why I got to go with Jalen Carter?
Okay.
You know why? Carter? He's been a dominant force all season. Did he look like a dominant force this past week? I'm going to say no, he didn't. We need the Jalen Carter from early in the season. I understand he may not be 100%. I understand he may take this week to get himself right and come back and really give it to us. But I just want to say, I don't expect to say your name in this category again, Mr. Carter. But I got to be honest. You did not give us pressure from the other side. You didn't do the things that we needed you to do. And it's part of the reason why Dak was able to have a great statistical game. So I don't expect to say that they begin in a negative context, but I got to be real.
Mm-hmm.
And then little LJ says Eagles defense is questionable. Yes, sir. You missed it. We went over the stats, and basically we're third from the bottom in
passing yards
against per game. We're first in rushing defense, and we're so bad in passing that it takes us down to 13th overall. That's how bad
horrible
the pass is. But it's fixable. This is the week. It's fixable. Guys can get healthy. Like what I said, guys can take a break. Guys can watch film. I say a lot. You say the same thing about, we talk a lot about getting us, I guess the best way to put it is, we talk a lot about using what worked last year. Maybe the problem is Brian Johnson doesn't really want to use what Steichen did because he doesn't want it to feel like it's a continuation of what Steichen did. I think it's silly.
I can understand that.
But that may be the only reason.
His own identity type thing.
Yeah. So little LJ asks us a question. He says, do you guys think that Jalen Hurts has played his best football so far this season? No.
Not yet.
Once more. No.
I think it's been better. I think this past like 3 games or so since the Jets game. I think since that Jets game, he's looked the best so far this season. But I wouldn't say it's the best form of Jalen Hurts as of yet. But he has certainly gotten better since that Jets game. Even though, as far as injury status, it seems like it's been getting worse. But for some, just sticking in that pocket, he's been throwing, and the stats are there. He's what is it, number 5 on pass? He's passing, one of the passing leaders right now in the NFL. He's number 5
in yards. I think he's number 4 or 5. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's definitely out there slinging it. We know we could sit there in a pocket and throw the ball.
In all fairness,
turnovers have gone down too.
In all fairness, he does have some of the quarterbacks have already had their bye. He's just getting his bye. So we'll see how it balances out after he has this week off with everybody else.
True.
But I still think he's gonna be there because I like what he's doing. I just need him to not run him as much. I need him to make better decisions in certain situations. And overall he's making great decisions. I'm not talking about another Dak where we just get in a situation and we say, oh no, Jalen Hurts is not gonna make anything happen with this. I'm just saying from the standpoint of somebody watching the game, there's a couple of times where it's like, Jalen, just throw that ball, bro.
Yeah.
Whatever you're being told by whatever Sirianni is telling you, man, block all that out sometimes. Go out there and play football like you have been since you were a kid. Your dad's a coach. You know how to play the game of football. My argument against him, Dak, all these guys is there's times where you say, okay, the coach is calling this. I'm the quarterback. I'm going to do this. If there's a problem, it is what it is. Bench me then. You ain't going to bench me, so I ain't worried about too much. You might argue.
Nick's not on that field. Brian Johnson's not on that field. He can't see exactly what Hurts is seeing.
Go out there and play with the game that you have, man. We don't have to do it this week.
Careful.
Because nobody's next. So we don't have to do it. But there is one thing that I would like to play because I am a petty individual. I have never said I wasn't. And there is something that we need to play because I love to see it. And we're going to play this. We're going to come back. We'll give you a proper ending.
Here we go right now. We got a kicker with a pick.
The Indianapolis Colts have traded the 49th pick to the Philadelphia Eagles. To announce the Philadelphia Eagles selection, please welcome from the University of Louisville, kicker David Akers.
What's up, Dallas?
Kicker's trolling the Cowboys.
Last year, These draft picks weren't born. Tonight, we are welcomed into the Eagles
Look at Doug
family
Peterson.
with the 49th pick in the 2018 draft. The NFL would like to represent the Philadelphia Eagles, Dallas Goedert. He is the tight end from South Dakota State. Go Birds!
That will never get old to me, especially the part where he says, "Hey Dallas, the last time you won a Super Bowl, these draft picks weren't even born yet," and that still holds true.
Mm-hmm.
And the way those Dallas fans like boo, so mad. That's how
And
they
we
were.
picked Dallas Goedert on
Yes,
top
sir.
of it too.
And
the
that's how
cherry on
mad.
top.
That's how mad they were after that game on Sunday.
Yeah. There are so many videos I saw of just those fans wiling out.
Yep. So little LJ also says, "Is he the
Screaming
Super
for
Bowl a
TVs.
bust for the Eagles?"
Yeah,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
We're gonna give
Long road to go, though.
our favorite thing a rest this week because no one's next this week. The only thing that's
Ah.
next is a bye. So it's time for us to get healthy, time for us to refocus. We're gonna come back next week. We're gonna talk about what happened on the bye week, what we got from interviews that we saw, because we'll have time to dig into those things because we don't have a game on Sunday. And then we'll also be previewing that matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs next week. So get ready. And once games come back, what happens? Oh, pregame show on Sunday. Let's go. 8:20, right? Because this is a night game.
Oh, yeah,
boy.
prime time.
And your boy gonna be covered.
Mhm. Man, I'm so happy go to this weekend without a heart attack. It's like every single weekend. We can't make it easy. Get my blood pressure up and everything. It's going to be nice to finally relax, not have to worry about it.
Yes, it is. So, with that being said, guys, me and Wyatt are going to be out for the week. Shout out to Eagles Diva. I know she had to hop off, but shout out to her as well. And we're going to make this thing official like a whistle. We didn't even give you the intro today. You know why? Because we had some stuff to get into. We're going to give you the outro. Holla at your boys. We'll see you next week. Fly Eagles fly.
Eagles fly.
Hashtag be elite.
Go Birds.
And remember, tell two of your friends and four of your enemies. Even if they don't like you, that doesn't mean they won't like us.